And welcome back to Hannity. Left-wing NBC News host Al Sharpton has been out in full force attacking, well, little old me and others for daring to have an honest conversation about race relations in the country in the aftermath of the George Zimmerman trial. Here is a clip of what he's been saying.
A father turning his personal tragedy into national action. That's the real issue we're facing in this country. But the right-wing spin machine doesn't want an honest conversation. They're trying to distort the truth and rewrite history.
Now, that's not all. Earlier today, a guest on Al Sharpton's radio program said this about me.
They are professional hitmen. They are professional, in the case of Lemon and Riley, O'Reilly and Hannity, they're professional assassins of African Americans, the image of all the things that we fight for, that we struggle for, and all the challenges that we are faced. That's their job. They're paid assassins. They're paid quite well. So it is, and I happen to agree, it is in some ways almost ridiculous, you know, to trade barbs with these guys. You know, they have an agenda, and we should have our agenda.
Now, while Sharpton and his guests' accusations are wildly inappropriate and inaccurate, you know what? The Reverend shouldn't be throwing stones. Why? Over the years, you might remember a few of these instances.
I'm tired of the Maccabee. You ain't nothing. You a punk. Now come on, do something.
Black folks was in the cave when we had built empires. We learned to admire them, but they knew to admire us. We built pyramids before Donald Trump ever knew what architecture was. We taught philosophy and astrology and mathematics before Socrates and them Greek ever got around. Yes. You want to be the only on television, the only in the newspaper, the only can talk. Don't cover them. Don't talk to them, because you got the only problem. Because you know if a black man stood up next to you, they would see you for the that you really are.
And joining me now to weigh in on this and much more from the National Action Network, Mike Hardy, and chief strategist of the TeaParty.net, Niger Innes, is with us. Good to see you. All right, he said here that, you know, Rush, Hannity, and the crowd are desperate not to have a real conversation about injustices involving race. Have I been to your National Action Network? How many times have I been there?
You've been there several times.
Several times.
At least 2 major debates, Sean.
Wait, I got another question. Did I not offer the Reverend Al Sharpton internships at this network for my show for kids that he thought were needing an opportunity? Yes, I did.
Okay. But that has nothing to do with the point that he was making, Sean. I think over the last week, right, I mean, everyone was touched in one way or another by the Trayvon Martin case. And in some respects, there were many discussions that needed to be had, and many that were led even by the President of the United States. Some felt that you and others sort of tried to change the script.
Michael?
So when you begin to talk about, for instance, the black-on-black crime in Chicago and things like that, that's important.
61 people died during that.
That's important.
Trial.
But at the same time, it's not necessarily the same discussion as having the discussion about exactly the effect of
I want to tell you something,
Martin.
Michael. I've known you a long time, and we've had some passionate debates, and I've had debates with Reverend Al, but on his show, he's calling me a professional paid assassin of African Americans. I want an apology.
Well, that wasn't him.
I want an apology.
But that wasn't him.
It was on his show. He knows better than that, and I deserve an apology.
Well, there are guests that come on your show, and whoever's the person that said that should apologize. Certainly, that may not be the opinion that Reverend Sharpton has about you, but that was the person on his show.
He made the comments himself that I won't have shows. I've been to his network having a real conversation on race.
If Reverend Sharpton demanded an apology of everyone that may have been a guest on your show that said something outrageous about him, well, you guys would be apologizing to each other every day.
You know, this wasn't one instance of Reverend Al over the years. Brawley, white interlopers, the N-word for David Dinkins, the slurs against gays and lesbians. This was like all the time over the course of years. Do I really need to get lectured on his show about this stuff?
Well, you know, it's amazing. They talk about these assassins and allege that you and Bill O'Reilly are assassins. I'd like to ask that caller, I'd like to ask Reverend Sharpton if I'm an assassin, if Don Lemon of CNN is an assassin, if Rod Wheeler, Ted Williams, Jammu Green, Democratic consultant, all who have said the most pressing crisis in the black community right now are the 50 Trayvon Martins that are killed every week. And they're not killed by the Klan. They're not killed by white racists. They're not killed by George Zimmerman.
Right.
They're killed, unfortunately, by other young black men. And often
and Sean and Nigel,
there is a
that
genocide.
may very well be true.
There's a genocide going on in our communities. That is the relevant issue that we need to be addressing.
That may very well be true. And the fact of the matter is that contrary to the impression that is then tried to be given that we do not address those issues, we address those issues every day. I'm saying we're talking collectively now
the time
because we're saying that
the time on Trayvon versus the time in Chicago, the disparity is startling.
It's not, because there are other times when we are talking directly about the crime in Chicago. Or, for instance, right here in New York, when Lloyd Morgan, a 4-year-old child, was killed here by a stray bullet.
Right, I got to run, but let me ask you one last question. You've known me for years. You don't think I care about those kids? You know better.
Sure, I don't, and again, I don't
know
believe,
better.
We know that, and I don't believe Reverend Sharpton thinks you don't care.
Then why did he say that?
We're saying that the conversation, if we're talking about race, if we're talking about voting rights, you cannot distract from that by trying to make an argument.
We got to go.
Let's talk about what's really killing our people, Michael.
All right, coming up next, thank you both. Insiders say the Clintons are outraged that many Americans are daring to compare them to Anthony Weiner and his wife Huma.